You're watching Canadian Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. From Toronto, Ontario, this is Samia Sayed. Welcome back to another show. Coming up very shortly is a conversation with Brother Aquil Verani on his new project, Unpacking Ismaili History Through Visual Arts. But first, let's take a look at some headlines. Paul Pelosi's attacker planned to assault other politicians. Alberta's new Minister of Children's Services, a Muslim politician. Toronto Board's employees start an indefinite strike. Pope meets Sunni authority leader during Bahrain trip. And now the details. David DePape, a Canadian man who is accused of breaking into U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's house, assaulting her husband and seeking to kidnap her, told the police he was planning to target other politicians, reports a media source. DePape told the police he was on a, quote, suicide mission in his Tuesday court filing. The Canadian national was held without bail during his trial in a superior court in San Francisco. This is his first public appearance since his attack on the House Speaker's husband. As of now, DePape has pleaded not guilty. Mickey Amery, a Muslim Albertan politician, is serving as the Minister of Children's Services. He was sworn in during the last week of October. Amery was elected as a member of the Legislative Assembly in the Alberta general election of 2019 to serve the district of Calgary Cross. Amery is a lawyer with expertise in Aboriginal law and consumer protection. He is the son of a renowned politician, a former Calgary MLA, Mo Amery, who moved to Canada from Lebanon in 1974. Amery Sr. was elected as an MLA in 1993 and served for over 20 years. The Toronto District School Board says it is closed for in-person learning today and in the coming week if the education workers' strike extends. Nearly 55,000 education workers represented by the Canadian Union of Public Employees, or CUPE, are part of the strike after contract negotiations with the provincial government did not come to fruition. These include childhood educators, educational assistants, and custodians. Soon after CUPE issued a strike notice to school boards on Monday, Ontario's government tabled legislation that will impose a contract on the workers. The government invoked the notwithstanding clause that overrides the workers' right to strike. Pope Francis has met Sunni Islam's leading authority Friday during his first visit to Bahrain, aimed at increasing dialogue. The 85-year-old Pope landed on the tiny island kingdom yesterday for a 4-day trip. Upon his arrival, he delivered a speech critical of the use of the death penalty. He urged nations to respect human rights and provide better conditions for workers. The Pope also highlighted Yemen's forgotten war. The Pope met with the Grand Imam of Cairo's prestigious Al-Azhar Mosque, Sheikh Ahmed Al-Tayyib, who also addressed the gathering. A government spokesperson has rejected allegations of rights violations, saying Bahrain does not tolerate discrimination. And that's it for the news. We have a very exciting segment planned for today. As someone who is not artistically developed in the way that I cannot draw, paint, or sculpt, I do appreciate others who can. Specifically, I love to see how people can communicate through art, where a simple object or painting can mean so much more. There is one artist who is doing just that through his ongoing project on painted suitcases. Brother Aquil Verani is an acclaimed artist who has his artistic creations featured across Canada and museums. His previous works include the commemorative portrait series in honor of the 6 men killed in the Quebec City mosque shooting, as well as Canada's self-portrait, which was displayed at the Canadian Museum of Immigration in Halifax. He's joining us now to tell us more about his most recent project. Welcome, Brother Aquil, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Sister Samia. Very happy to be here.
Happy to have you on. Brother Aquil, tell me about your current project, the Painted Suitcases. What is it exactly?
Yeah, the Painted Suitcases project with a working title of Unpacking Ismaili Identity. is a series of paintings that have been done within suitcases. And so I'm using the suitcase as a very rich symbol of migration, a symbol of movement, of bringing things from another land to this land. And it also works beautifully because a lot of suitcases are rectangular, and many of the paintings are. So the suitcase frames various paintings and images related to my Ismaili Muslim identity, related to my grandparents and my parents' journey to Canada, and as well images that relate to my sense of belonging here in the land we call Canada.
Mhm. And so you said that you're putting these on paintings in the suitcase, but how are you actually doing it? So if you could give us an example of one piece of your identity that you are trying to show through the suitcase, what would that look like?
Yeah, so for example, there is one of the paintings that I've created shows my paternal grandmother, whose name was Jenabai, in Tanzania, where she lived, participating in an African socialist march in support of the former prime minister of Tanganyika and the first president of Tanzania, who was Julius Nyerere. So this is my grandmother who I'm depicting in a march, and she's walking with other Ismaili Muslims in support of a local leader, Julius Nyerere, who was known to support the kind of integration and coexistence of different communities, whether they were indigenous to Africa, whether they were immigrant communities, such as those who came from South Asia. And so this is an important part of my identity, not only my family heritage, but also getting a bit into the political nuances of Ismaili Muslims who have lived in different parts of the world, whether they are socialist or on different parts of the political spectrum.
Mhm. So what impact are you trying to achieve through these pieces? Is it to start a conversation or a reminder of history?
Yeah, there's a lot I'm trying to do, maybe a bit ambitious. Well, one thing is that I'm creating meaningful objects that I hope can instill a sense of pride in the Ismaili Muslim community, but as well, in parallel, instill pride in various racialized immigrant communities to say, we all have very interesting stories. We all bring our baggage from where we're from, and we can all share it with others here in Canada. So that's the first thing that I'm trying to do. The other thing that I'm trying to do is create work that eggs on some conversation about our place in Canada, whether that's the coexistence of different racialized communities, how we interact with each other, how we understand each other, and as well, how we approach our place in the conversation surrounding reconciliation and our relationship with our Indigenous brothers and sisters.
Mhm. Now, just hearing about your project, I love that connection that you make between the suitcases, capturing your identity, your story, and then unpacking it when you open the actual suitcase. Where did you get the idea to start this project?
Ooh, okay. I often want to make paintings that are related to my personal story. I think that that's one of the benefits of being an artist, is being able to work through some of the issues and questions that are important to me. And so I remember asking my parents about their suitcases, what they had just when having to travel between cities in Canada, and noticing that in the back of suitcases, sometimes you have different patterns that are used, right? Sometimes you can fit a painting if you have to travel with a painting in a suitcase. And I remember that it dawned on me that most suitcases are generally rectangular and actually present a kind of blank canvas that can be used very easily as a kind of support for the painting.
Mhm. Now, this question I'm really curious about, and you alluded to it previously throughout this interview. But what does working on and completing this suitcase project mean for you personally?
I'm hoping by the end of it that I'm proud of the work I've created. For me, especially in tough times related to health, related to the pandemic, when we have this kind of existential angst that I'm sure many can connect with, I find that creating art is akin to planting a flag in the soil, right? To create something that will last, something meaningful, something that doesn't contribute to this kind of consumerist or waste culture, but a meaningful object, something that represents family, something that tells the story of my heritage. And I feel very blessed, very grateful to be able to work on projects like this and to be supported in this case by a grant from the Ontario Arts Council.
Mhm. Now, as you were describing the suitcase project, I was wondering, I'm so excited to see this for myself. It sounds really interesting. Do you have an expected release date of when you'll be done with the project?
Yes, the expected release date is early next year in 2023. Other than that, most of the details are under wraps to be finalized. But I really look forward to sharing these photos and these images of the suitcases with people. And social media gives me a great opportunity to do that live before the final artworks are created.
Mhm. So we will keep updated to see your final product. Thank you so much for joining us, Brother Akil, and sharing us more on your current project and how that connects to your personal story and belonging in Canada. It was a pleasure having you on the show today.
Absolutely my pleasure, Sister Samia.
You are watching Canadian Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. That's it from our Toronto studios tonight. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more Canadian Muslim content. Stay safe, and until next time.